this is Unit 3. This is making a white cake using the conventional method. There are fewer steps to this than the angel food cake and the sponge cake, so this is kind of an easier one to get going. I have a rectangle shaped pan that has been greased with butter, so I've just covered the surface with butter. And then I'm also going to flour it, so I just pour in a little bit of flour, and then I just gently want to shake this around and make sure we have just a super thin layer of flour, and this will make sure that the cake doesn't stick to the pan when we want to take it out later. So I think this is looking okay, and I'm just going to actually get rid of that little bit of extra flour. I'll set that aside. So for this cake, first I'm going to mix the dry ingredients. I have flour, and then I also have salt, baking soda, and baking powder that I've measured, and I'm going to mix those together. And after we have those well mixed, then we're going to move on to the butter. So the first thing I'm going to do with the butter is to cream it with a mixer on medium speed. So my butter is at room temperature. So is my buttermilk and my eggs. I'm next going to add my sugar and vanilla to the bowl all in one shot. And then we're going to cream this together further until it's well combined. Okay, that's mixed up together. And the next step is for me to add the eggs. I'm going to add them one at a time, making sure that I get each egg fully incorporated before I add the next one. And then the next step is to alternately add the flour with the buttermilk. So I'm going to do 3 additions of flour and 2 of buttermilk. So we'll start with some dry and get this incorporated. And we'll add half the buttermilk. And when I'm doing this stage of the beating, I just want to get the ingredients incorporated. I don't want to overmix it. I'm also going to scrape down the sides of the bowl as I'm going. Put the rest of the buttermilk in there. Last of the flour mixture. So with this cake, you'll notice when we're talking about additions of fat and the difference between shortened cakes and unshortened cakes, in this white cake we've added butter as a source of fat. And I'm just going to do one last scrape of the bowl. And it looks like I've got everything incorporated, and I'm ready to pour it into our cake pan. Another difference for this cake compared to the sponge cake and the angel food cake is that we used baking powder. So that would be part of the leavening. Okay, this is looking nice and even on top. I have a preheated oven at 350 degrees, and I'm going to pop this in the oven. It should take about 30 to 35 minutes, so we'll take a look at it then. Our white cake is ready to take out of the oven. It's looking a little bit golden brown on top, and the way that we check the readiness of this cake is with a toothpick. So I'm just going to stick it right into the center And it's come out nice and clean, no crumbs sticking to the toothpick, so we know that the cake is cooked through and it's ready. So I will just put it onto the cooling rack and let it sit until it cools down.
Okay, so now we are making unit 4, which is the preparation of meringue cookies. And in front of me here is like the egg whites, cream of tartar, sugar, vanilla, that is the almond extract, and then some cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt, and the almonds. So now, because if you see your lab menu, there are different variations of this recipe. And what we are making today is the Amorati spice beads. So we will first beating the egg whites with the electronic mixer. So now I will turn to like medium speed. While we are beating the egg whites, we are gonna slowly add the sugars. So here is around like a half cup of sugar. We're gonna add them into the egg white by dividing them into 3. So with beating with the egg whites, you want to make sure your bowl and the mixer is very clean. And also we need to add a cream of tartar into here as a stabilizer. So as you see the texture begins to change, we will add like a first teaspoon of sugar. Here I will add another like 2 teaspoons of sugar. So I will add the rest of sugar in here and keep beating until it's formed like a warm texture. Okay, so after the egg white is beaten like that, we will then add the almond extract, which is 2 ml. And also we're gonna add the cinnamon and the ginger powder in here. And we just gonna mix it like together. Again with a high speed. So now they are all mixing well. You can see the color is slightly changed. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold the finely chopped almond into the mixture. So here this is a cup of the chopped almond. And I will just really gently fold it. So as you see, they form like a nice sticky texture. And now we can just separate them into like a small jobs onto like a baking sheet. So you can kind of adjust the size you want the cookie to be. And in here, I will just decide to put like around this size. We can just make them kind of in a round shape. And leave some space between each other, just in case they are like kind of melting in the oven, so they are not gonna be like aligning together. So now the cookie is ready, and then we will put them into the oven. The oven is preheated to 150 degrees. So we will just put them in the oven for around like 20 to 30 minutes. And then during that time, we will monitor the cookie until they are like turning like golden brown color on top. Okay, so after 20 minutes baking, the meringue cookie is ready, and then we also let them to sit into the oven for another 20 minutes, because if you immediately pour the meringue cookie out of the oven, it will like shrink back to this. It will be very like, it will shrink. So that is what you don't want. And as you see here, if you touch the meringue cookie, you can feel this there's like a hard shell on top. So that means it is ready. The orange one and the white cake.
These two?
Yeah.
Well, different, like, this was like
Baking.
creaming method, so like
Okay.
butter and then sugar.
Uh-huh.
And there's no butter, like no extra fat, just the egg yolk.
Yeah.
I thought I could get in the jam. I took some jam from there was a jar of jam.